welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. All right, this guest is Prateek Dwivedi, CEO of EHave, publicly traded company. Symbol is EHVVF, Edward House, Victor Frank. All right, Prateek, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, my pleasure. Let's get a little background on who you are, and let's get into EHave, what you're doing there when it comes to PTSD.
Well, my background is in hospital administration. I used to be on the executive team of Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. And I learned really quickly that clinicians often operate without all the information at their fingertips. And researchers were often doing their work, and they were dark in terms of all the data they needed. I moved over to another organization called Princess Margaret Cancer Center, Canada's largest cancer center, and there was a mandate that we created called the Cancer Informatics Strategy. It's all about giving clinicians everything they need, researchers everything they need, as if we're developing drugs. Because when you have a pharmaceutical company that is actually paying for drug development, you have a lot of data and a lot of staff around you that makes your work better, it makes the data better, and makes the patients healthier. So what I did over there was we built this platform that we treated every patient as if they were on a trial. And we thought that was a great idea because everybody was being treated with a degree of sophistication from a data perspective where everybody won. When I started looking at EHave as an opportunity in the mental health and brain health space, I brought a lot of that thinking over. What can we do in mental health as the stigma with mental health starts coming down? What can we do with mental health that will actually do the same thing? It's treat it with data rather than a lot of the ways we treat it today, which is a lot of 1950s type pen and paper.
All right, give us the biggest separation here from what they were doing with 50s and how you're treating it with data. Give me the effective, practical application, how it connects.
The most effective way of looking at it is when you go see a psychiatrist, psychologist, or social worker, and they actually talk to you about your mental health, you're filling out psychological assessments on paper and pen.
Right.
And often you'll do around 5 to 10 of these psychological assessments, and the clinicians have to gather all of these scores together and to determine their diagnosis, all on pen and paper. And then they write these long reports. So what our platform does is offer these assessments digitally and gives the clinicians insights on what the diagnosis should be and helps them determine what the best treatment plans are. So we take the data with our own machine learning and artificial intelligence to determine what the best course of actions are.
Okay, and how do you relay that to, say, that the physician or the technician working with the patient?
They're using our platform to actually do the surveys. These assessments are all done on our platform. All the scoring happens by our platform. These are well-known assessments by publishers they already are working with. We've partnered with some of them already. Once they finish these assessments, they get all the scores together. We give them this multivariate analysis in a dashboard so they can see it all together, and we help them determine what the right diagnosis should be.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to. So they're looking at a screen on a computer or their phone or their wrist to be able to relay what data is coming in as for the patient, and then they make a treatment plan and they go forward with that. It's not on the fly, right?
It's not on the fly at all, and that's what's most important, is they were always very thoughtful with what they did, but what we're doing is we're actually digitizing this so we can not only let them do what they were doing more efficiently, but give them these insights they never had before.
All right, give us some practicalities on PTSD, how you're working in that area.
So when we signed up Multi-Health Systems, the second largest clinical psychological assessment provider in the world, last fall, we saw a news article about PTSD in soldiers. And we saw that the Canadian government was taking the 9 grams per day on average that they were letting soldiers have of cannabis, and they're saying, well, that's too expensive for us. We're just going to chop that down by a half to a third. And we felt that that was an economic decision that didn't take anything into consideration of what the clinical efficacy was of the drugs, whether it was working, whether it wasn't working. It was all economic. So our publishing partner has a PTSD assessment called the Davidson Trauma Scale. And what we're doing right now with medical cannabis is saying, look, why don't you use real assessments that are already being used? Like the Davidson Trauma Scale, a lot of people with PTSD also present with depression and anxiety. We have those psychological assessments as well. Let's give them an entire proper battery of tests as you would in any psychologist, like psychiatrist's office, and use all of that data to ensure we have the right diagnosis But most importantly, give them the right treatment, a treatment that works. And do we have the right medications? Should it be cannabis? What strain of cannabis? What's the dosage that they should have? All of these things are important questions to clinicians because they don't really understand how to even prescribe medical cannabis. So that's the practicality of what we do in medical marijuana is we give the tools for clinicians to be able to prescribe a drug that is not in their pill book with what they're used to prescribing.
Have you been able to measure the amount of efficiency and also the ability to recover using your methodologies versus the others that have been used over time?
We have in my past work, and we know we can achieve around a 20% efficiency in clinics, which means for them they can see 20% more patients. Patients drive revenue for the clinicians. That's what our goal is, and going to be in mental health as well, is to achieve 20% more efficiency in the clinician offices.
What about the relationship? Because I understand in reading something about what you're doing that you have with, say, growers, people who are now growing medical marijuana for use in this industry sector and in this treatment of these illnesses.
Well, we have signed a strategic partnership with a licensed producer named MedRelief. And the reason we sought them out, that partnership out, was they were one of the primary suppliers of medical cannabis to soldiers with PTSD. And so our relationship with them is to help them prove that the cannabis strains they have work. It's a very simple statement, prove it works, but it's very hard to do. It's like what a pharmaceutical company has to do when they say, prove that this pill works, this drug works, is there's a lot of work that has to be done. Our platform looks at data as if every patient going through is on a trial, but we have trial quality data, even if it's cannabis. And that's what we give to licensed producers and growers, is we prove that their strains work.
Got it. We've got about a minute left. Going forward with your company and your stock, EHVVF, what do you see happening on the next leg of the journey as you go forward with your company, with EHave?
Our base platform is built. We have 24,000 patients already on the platform, 700,000 pieces of data. Our next leg is getting more and more patients on, growing our data so our data insights, that artificial intelligence I was talking about, gets more and more powerful. When we do that, we will be able to demonstrate to the world that we have a platform and data capabilities where you can rely on insights and have healthier outcomes and happier patients.
Prateek,
that's our next leg.
Thank you for saying that. This is all the time we have, but I want to thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Prakeek Dwivedi, CEO EHave, EHAVE.com, and symbol EHVVF. Thanks for listening to CEO Money. This segment has been brought to you by Lots of Yachts.